Would you take a stroll through a forest straight out of a nightmarish fairy tale? What if a missing person of 5 years reappeared as if nothing had happened? Is the most paranormal forest located in Transylvania? Today, we test the believability of the Hoia-Baciu Forest.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
and tell you whether we find it believable or not.
A little change there.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
There's good bass in that,
It's
too.
a cadence, you know? You gotta change your cadence every now and again. Today's like my favorite day. I love this day. I love recording day. It's a good energy.
I think I meant Tuesdays in general.
Well, I do like Tuesdays because our episodes drop by like recording days.
Yeah, recording days are fun. It's nighttime now. It's nighttime by like 4 o'clock now.
Yeah.
I saw a shooting star in the highway today. I called you.
It's very cool.
I called Charlie immediately, thinking that maybe he might have seen it too.
No, I was already parked. But I got out of the car. I was like, wow, this is actually really nice out here. I saw some stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good day to be recording about some paranormal forest.
It is. I've never heard of this.
The Hoia-Baciu?
I have no idea what this is.
Okay, cool. So let me just shout this out now. Sources include Little House of Horrors, History.com, Mysterious Universe, TheTravel.com, Torn Romania, UFO Sightings Hotspots, and, based on my notes, I know I'm missing one in here, but I'll shout it out when it happens, because it'll be a quote. But this is fun. It's going to rival, I don't want to say rival, because I'm not trying to pit it up against each other. But, like my last question is the most paranormal forest located in Transylvania? I feel like people in Japan might be like, well,
whoa, calm down now.
Hold on a second there. But the Hoia-Baciu Forest is pretty crazy.
I'm excited. Does it? I would say rivals is a good word.
Yeah, I just don't want it. I don't want it to become
no
like
competition.
This one versus this one. They can both be the
right.
spookiest places.
They're both
places
spooky.
you shouldn't go off paths.
Really
Should be.
See, in Japan, I've pictured like these like strong dark trees with like this beautiful green canopy. But for this one, I picture just dead trees.
Just dead trees.
Just dead trees.
They're not dead trees. I'll pull a photo up while we do this.
I think of like the one forest in Lord of the Rings where they see Gandalf, again, spoilers, or versus like the dead swamp.
Oh,
that's what I see in my head. Yeah.
No, it's tree. It's a forest. It's a real forest.
All right.
Picture like vampire bats flying, because this is Romania.
Yeah,
This is Transylvania. But let's get into where this forest is.
Okay.
All right, so before we get into the spooky and eeriness of the forest, let's talk about where it is and kind of what's going
Like
down.
physically on Earth.
Yeah.
Put a pin on it.
So the Hoia-Baciu Forest is west of the city of Cluj-Napoca.
Okay.
It's in the Transylvania region of Romania.
I wish I had better. I don't even know where Romania is.
It's
on the map.
It's,
It's European.
European, yeah. It's in Europe. Kind of seems like we're maybe near where Resident Evil 4 takes place. Now, somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean, I
for
think that's
sure.
Spain. I think it's Spain that takes place. It's not a super remote area. Like it's when you get in the forest, you kind of feel secluded. But it's a pretty significant tourist attraction.
Really?
People want to, not just paranormal investigators, but people who hear the stories of this forest like to go adventure there. But also, I think it has the compelling aspect of it being Transylvania. So when people think Dracula, vampires, castles.
Mother, let me go play in the forest. Yes, my dear. Yes, go play in the forest. Don't be sure to not let the monsters trap you.
That's how they take care of the children there.
Yeah,
They just the ones that the children they don't like as much. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Have fun in the forest. Go very far away. That's my standard European accent.
It's not bad. I think it's pretty tasteful.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's better than a lot of other ones I've heard.
From me? Yeah,
just in general. So in terms of size, the Hoia-Baciu Forest is 1 square mile.
That's it.
So it's not big. No, it's not large, but everything it lacks in size makes up for in strangeness.
I hate to be so American.
Just like me.
I hate to be so American, but are there any acres in this forest, or is it just like I don't know how that translates to acres.
I can probably more quickly break it down to football fields.
It's a couple.
You know what a mile? I didn't say kilometer. It's a mile.
Yeah, I know.
5,280 feet.
Okay.
Does that help you?
That helps. That helps.
So that means multiply that by 3.
Is it a square mile? Like, so it's like
it's pretty much, it's like a square mile.
Gotcha.
It's like a one house in Pierpont where my friend is from. Also, and I just want to note, throughout my research, I saw a lot of Hoia-Baciu Forest, and I also saw it just be called the Hoia Forest.
Oh, yeah.
So for the remainder of this episode, I'm going to call it the Hoia Forest.
Sure.
Because, it's less formal. We've introduced ourselves.
We know there aren't the first names.
But also, like, if that is incorrect or it's a mistake and somebody is from there, I'm sorry.
I'm Tyler. This is Charlie. Nice to meet you, Hoia Forest.
At least I'm not calling it the woods or a woods, right?
Or a copse or a copse of trees.
A brush. So back to the forest.
Yes.
So the Hoia Forest has many different variations of paranormal activity, which I'm excited to get into. It's actually known as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania.
Okay. There's a lot of Bermuda Triangles of different places.
It's a lot of triangles for sure. Even though it's a square mile.
This is a square-ass triangle.
The Bermuda Square. I love that we're still talking about this, and we've done all these triangles, and we've never done the Bermuda Triangle.
One day.
Maybe.
I was there. I didn't say anything.
I know you should have. We should have did it live. You should have took me on your cruise with you.
Packed you in the bag.
For the sake of the podcast.
That can happen.
But there is a lot of stuff, and I'm like, it's not like the forest is known for having this one cryptid or this one haunting. It's like a collection of things. It's like an epicenter of paranormal activity, which is pretty dope. But before we get into the anomalies, things like that, let's talk a little bit about what it's known for. So how it looks, because the way that this forest looks is very interesting and very different from many other forests.
Right. I think of a forest, I think of just like, I think of like Oregon and like the like pine
Pacific
forest.
Northwest,
like
Bigfoot.
Pine forests. Yeah.
Pine trees, redwood trees.
Mm-hmm.
So it has trees, it has vegetation, but these trees are strange. It's kind of, it makes you feel like everything's warped, like you were just dropped into this forest from a fantasy novel. And I showed Charlie before, like about 5 minutes ago. So that way it'd be hard for me to explain it to them and you not know what I'm talking about. So you've seen it. So these trees are twisty. They don't grow up straight.
Is there like a reason?
No, there's really not.
They said, wouldn't it be cool if we were spooky?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we're in Romania. Let's make it extra spooky.
I could see, not to jump ahead, but I could see with all like the twisted limbs of these trees how it's late or you're freaked out and you look around in your peripheral, you see something, you think it's an arm, but it's just a tree.
Or it's perfect camouflage.
It's perfect. There's just cryptids in there like, why aren't they afraid of us? But so like these trees are kind of like menacing looking, otherworldly. It really like, to me, it feels like if you had a grandmother and she said, we need sugar.
Yeah.
But you have to go through this forest. And you went through the forest. This would be that forest.
Oh, I see.
Like, it's like, there's like some, not saying there's a witch or anything, but it's just,
Grandma knows you're not coming back, basically.
She's like, good riddance.
She's like, we need sugar. Get out there.
I promise we're not anti-children. But so they're very twisted trunks. One thing that is apparently, and I didn't really perfectly see this in the photos I looked at, but apparently the way that the trees curve, like the limbs and everything, it's always in a clockwise direction.
Really?
And by that I mean the branches and everything twist, spiraling from left to right.
And you're very good at board games, so you know a clockwise direction.
I do. With my son now, I can never be, youngest person goes first. I've lost that.
Yeah, you lost that.
It's gone.
You have to switch it to different things. You have to switch it to like
middle height. So there's also an area in the forest called like the dead zone. And this is an area where nothing is able to grow. Like it's just like, like if you didn't know what it was and you came upon it, you would just say it's a field.
Yeah.
It's a perfect field inside this forest. But like there's no trees. It's like everything's dead. And people say that there's like electromagnetic things that happen there. But like, and scientists have actually tested the soil to see like why this one circle, this spot, nothing happens, and they haven't been able to conclude anything.
But these people out here, they call it the dead zone, not just the.
There's like multiple, like I think the people who like to hype up the forest call it the dead zone. I've also saw it be called the clearing.
I like that better.
The clearing?
That's more gentle.
Yes. People say when you're standing in the clearing because it's not on an edge, it's inside the square mile. So when you're standing in it and you circle around, you look around you, it's just trees. So it's very like detached, like secluded, like I'm hidden inside this forest, and no matter which way you turn, it's just more forest.
It's not the middle of the clearing, is it?
I don't think it's the absolute middle of I don't think it's like dead center of it, but it's inside. All right, cool. So now that we have the feel for what the forest looks like, these twisting, crooked trees.
Your classic dark fantasy story.
There's really no better way for me to describe it than say it's like a dark fantasy forest. It's like, imagine that. Imagine an old dusty book. Yeah. And there's like a painting on it. It's that. So it's not just what people see or the creepiness of the forest. There's also what people feel. So let me set the stage here. Many people claim that when you walk in the forest, you get this rush of uneasiness. Sure, it looks strange, like you're at a fairy tale, but a lot of people feel like they're being watched. Like they're in an area that they shouldn't be in, almost like they're trespassing. And they feel as if eyes, human or other creatures, are observing their every move. Shadow figures are things that people are commonly seeing in the peripheral. It also is known to trigger your flight or fight senses.
Wow. I love this. I love it. It feels like I'm in Mordor. This is awesome.
Some people think that it's not haunted, but it is under a powerful curse or a place where the devil could wander.
It's not haunted. It's just super fucking haunted.
No, it's cursed.
Oh, okay.
Cursed.
Terrible.
Like I said, there's magnetic anomalies, electromagnetic field fluctuations. Electronic equipment is prone to malfunction here. Compasses have a tendency to go berserk because we all have compasses in our back pocket.
Phone.
Yeah, on your phone. That's like a calculator.
I guess that's
People
true.
don't walk around with compasses or calculators anymore.
Have you ever seen a knife with
Texas
a compass?
Instruments is
Have you seen a knife with like a compass in the hilt?
No.
That's pretty close.
Oh, you know what? I had a toy one.
There you go.
It was plastic, but I do remember it had a fake. Well, I mean, it might have been real. It probably wasn't a real compass.
They work. Yeah.
I had a compass and a fake knife when I was like very young.
Neat.
Some people believe that the forest is home to a number of creatures from ghosts and demons to aliens.
Alien. I knew they were going to come up with the clearing. That makes sense.
I would come on. I wouldn't even do this topic for you if it didn't have aliens in it. So let's go before we get to the anomalies. I keep doing it before we get to this, before we get to that.
Yeah.
But that's what they call a tease, y'all.
There's a lot of setup here.
I'm trying to get you to know what's coming, but to be excited about what's happening right now. And what's happening right now is urban legends. So I got 3 urban legends for you from the Hoia Forest. The first urban legend tells of a 5-year-old girl who went missing inside the forest. Got to get that sugar. The strangeness of the legend isn't the fact that she went missing, because that's just tragic. That's
just sad.
But she actually reemerged from the forest 5 years later. And not only did she come out of the forest 5 years later, it looked as if not a single day had passed.
No.
She was wearing the same exact clothes, like and not like dirtied, muddied, ripped, like pristine.
Yeah.
Just washed, separating the lights and the darks.
Oh.
Clean clothes. And she was the same age, and she had no memory of what had happened to her in the forest.
I know exactly what happened. Exactly what happened.
I'd like to hear.
The Fae tricked her. They took her, but she had a trap. Her trap was she's saying the song that will never end. This is a song that will never end. She's saying that, and then they gave up 5 years later.
They're like, I can't do it, man.
No more.
I keep offering her stuff, and she won't accept. She just keeps singing the song, man.
And that's how she got back.
Listen, this is one episode, and I don't have anything on it for you, but this is one episode, one topic that we're talking about in Believe in Bizarre that I'm not going to refute when you say Fae, because looking at pictures of this place, I could believe some Fae lives there.
Wow.
The high Fae.
The high elves.
But I'm not...
Of Rivendell.
I don't have any stories about Fae, but just based on appearances.
I could see it too. This is like old European Feywild. Yes.
So that's one urban legend. The second urban legend tells of a shepherd who went missing in the forest with a flock of 200 sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And the 200 sheep were lost too.
Oh, no.
So it's not just the shepherd that was never seen again. It was 200 sheep.
Jeez.
Oh, my goodness. There's somebody who was relying on those sheep for food or money or something.
Yeah.
It was very like...
I think it was the shepherd.
Well, or the shepherd's family.
Yeah. They're like, darn shame about Bob.
But wait, forget about Bob. What about the sheep?
Yeah, exactly.
So
that sucks.
Yeah, that happened. Apparently, there was
they never came back.
There's no. These people, they didn't know the song.
They didn't know the song.
The sheep tried learning it, but they weren't able to get the tenor part down.
Yeah.
So there was apparently an extensive search, but they didn't find him. But this, even though I feel like the other urban legend is the one I saw more, This one has roots in the name, apparently. So Bacai, Bacai, B-A-C-I,
Bacai
is Romanian for sheep herder.
Oh, okay.
And that's part of the name of the forest.
Okay. I was thinking
Hoia-Baciu.
No, I was thinking. You said Bacchus reminded me of the Roman name for the Dionysus, the god of wine and stuff. And
it made me think of the play.
Yeah.
Or is it musical technically, or is it a play?
It's a play.
And that lends itself to the idea that this is a place that people go missing. The third urban legend is a belief that the forest is lair to the ghosts of peasants who had been violently murdered there.
Oh, wow.
And anyone who enters the Hoia forest who has murderous thoughts or ill intentions, the forest will punish them and show them for what they really are before taking their life. And this kind of paints it more in the cursed light, to me, more than the haunted light. Not like overarching, this is definitely a haunted forest or a cursed forest, not a haunted forest. I just mean, if you want to take the angle that it's a cursed forest, this would be the urban legend you'd want to latch onto.
I feel like it could be both. I feel like it could be cursed and haunted.
Cursed, which is why it's bad. Haunted by the people that were killed there by the curse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Apparently, there's evidence of settlement there dating all the way back to the Neolithic period.
Wow. People lived in the forest or outside of the forest?
The whole area. The whole area. Evidence suggests that people originally settled there 6,500 BC, which would make it, if true, the oldest settlement in Romania.
It's pretty crazy that they lived next to this, like, only a mile of forest and didn't chop it down or anything.
They're not American.
Well,
look good here, a Burger King and a Fridays.
It's such a long time, and they just left it.
Now, if they said Old Navy, yeah, we could cut down a couple trees. I feel like that's, but maybe they did. Maybe at one point it's bigger than a square mile.
That could be too. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that makes sense, or
that they didn't cut it down?
I don't know. I find it strange
that they didn't.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying, or am I being silly? I'm
not familiar with the area nearby. I don't know how urban it is.
Okay.
It's by what I say is Cluj-Napoca. So I don't know if that's rural, if it's a town,
Okay.
or even Transylvania. I'm not hip to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's not super, super urban, I could see them keeping it.
Okay.
But if there's a strip mall 20 minutes away, 15 minutes away from the forest,
that'd
and
be
it's
such a weird disconnect.
We're going to go to Denny's and then the haunted forest.
Exactly. It's just 20 minutes down the road.
Actually, keeping it real, you probably would go to the haunted forest and then Denny's afterwards.
Yeah. To talk about the demons you saw.
Yeah. So let's get to the anomalies of the forest. All right. So I've broken down the urban legends, what this place looks like, where it's at, and hinted at some things, obviously being paranormal, being on the podcast. But here's categorically going through what people experience.
Okay, cool.
So before we even get to like what people are seeing, let's talk about how it impacts people, because I think that's important.
Yeah.
It's an internal thing, but likely caused by external factors. I think it's worthwhile to emphasize the sensations that people are having. So I'm going to read this to you like it's a side effects label on a medicine that you probably shouldn't be taking.
I see.
Visitors of the forest are known to experience any of the following: headaches, feelings of disorientation, nausea, dizziness, a loss of a sense of time, flight or fight responses, seeing things out of the corner of their eyes, a feeling of being watched, scratches and bruises, auditory and visual hallucinations, powerful memories coming back from the past, astral projections, intense mood swings, unexplainable physical sensations that would otherwise be attributed to things like gusts of wind or extreme temperature change when there isn't any, nosebleeds, rashes, and burns.
Huh. Burns are interesting. There are a couple of things on there that are very interesting, but there's some things in there I'm like, no, that could just be woods. Like the scratches.
You just brushed up against a branch.
Yeah.
Some of the tree trunks, people it's what you see. One of our friends, Ethan's really good at this, where you can see a face in something.
Yeah.
A lot of people tend to see.
Oh, there's a name for that. Do you know what it's called?
You're right, there is, but I don't.
Okay.
But like people sometimes in the tree trunks and the way that they're twisted, they say it looks like people screaming and stuff that. and sometimes the trunks either are burned or look burned without any explanation. All right, we looked. It's pareidolia. Siri's got our back. Thank you, Siri. So let's move on to the most. I don't want to say traditional, but it feels like I'm not trying to downplay.
These side effects are crazy, though.
Hauntings.
The haunting, the most traditional haunting.
No, I'm just saying like haunting are the most traditional aspect of like a paranormal.
A scary forest. I know what you mean. A haunting kind of situation.
So a wide variety of apparitions are spotted through the forest, and it's not uncommon for visitors to hear laughter, hushed voices, seemingly coming from nowhere.
Okay.
Faces are known to suddenly flash into existence in front of startled visitors, in addition to appearing in photographs after being developed, because that used to be a thing.
That's true.
When otherwise you would assume there was nothing there.
I have a question. Serious question.
Mm-hmm.
Do all these side effects and these hauntings...
I know, you're still on the side effects. I'm sorry. I kind of rushed into hauntings.
No, it's okay. Does it continue after you leave the forest?
No.
It's only in there?
Yes.
Okay. Is that with everything?
Everything that I read.
Okay,
like,
what about
I don't
later?
have an experience that covers every single one of those
Effects.
Though they were all listed, and I don't have them in here because they were like sentence longs, but like when people would post about this and people would comment, whether it was like a Reddit or a YouTube or a website in the comments, people, multiple times I saw like, I was feeling this sensation until I left, or I was feeling this, and then as soon as I left, like temperature change, anxiety, people feeling like that pit in their stomach, and then like not even attributing it naturally to the forest. Like I was going hiking, and I got this feeling in my stomach I was going to be sick, and as soon as I left the forest, it was gone. Like they left because of that feeling. They weren't like, I'm scared, this place is haunted, I'm now going to leave. It's, I'm getting this feeling, so I'm going to leave. And then as soon as they left, it's like, oh, I'm good.
I don't want to jump the gun, but is this like maybe one of those like negative vortexes we talked about forever ago?
That was
Alaska.
Was that the Alaska Triangle?
I think it was.
It's a triangle, man. Kind of.
Okay.
It says in the theories.
All right. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to jump the gun. So I'm excited about these stories.
People claim to see disfigured and distorted faces that materialize out of the trees. People who are looking for paranormal evidence, they have been known to capture EVP activity with eerie unidentified voices coming through the other end of the radio or the cell phone. One of the most common forms of ghostly activity reported is the presence of strange and flickering orbs that have no discernible origin.
Will-o-wisps.
Yes. No, that's not it. Well, it's the area though, I guess. But I'm like this, not like...
Okay.
Not like the orange, the blue light we talked about. I think these are more like the traditional.
Like orbs.
Orbs, yeah.
Gotcha.
And these mysterious lights have been studied by paranormal investigators using a range of scientific equipment like infrared cameras and thermal detectors. And it was discovered that these orbs do not produce any heat because the thermal imaging equipment has failed to turn up any type of signature for them.
So I mean, it's not like a puff of fire.
Yeah, it's nothing like that.
Okay.
I don't know what they were attributing it to anyways.
Swamp gas.
Swamp gas?
Well, yeah, really. Gas from the ground, lighting methane gas or something.
I guess.
But it's not that because there's no heat.
No heat. And they also seem to be completely random in their activity with no rhyme or reason why they appear or when they're going to be most active. In addition, people also claim to hear sound of deer or horse hooves when there's none nearby. And some people see glowing green eyes staring at them from a distance.
Ooh.
It's heightened right there. Here's a quote from Imperial Transylvania. There's a source I don't think I mentioned about a specific encounter. Quote, drawn by the stories about the forest, Alexander Sift, a biologist, started researching the strange occurrences in the 1950s. He reported feeling constantly accompanied and watched by some type of presence that he called shadows. These shadows would sometimes take the shape of a couple who would disappear into thin air as soon as they caught sight of him. He somehow managed to catch the man on camera right after the woman had disappeared, just as the man was disappearing himself. The photograph depicts the peculiar being with a stub for an arm and with parts of his body becoming translucent, a phenomenon referred to as dematerialization. Sadly, there's not many pieces of evidence, as the better part of the scholar's collection was stolen and destroyed, of course, shortly after he passed. Psychology professor Adrian Patrat has become one of his most notable believers, and his repertoire includes images of immaterial shapes, beams of light, spherical objects, none of which can be logically accounted for. However, it's said that whatever events may occur are influenced by the person who enters the forest. So if you're a skeptic, you're likely to get nothing and come out of the forest unscathed. Unquote.
I hate when that explanation is put out. If you're a skeptic, you're not going to see anything because it just feels like
Santa Claus, right?
I just don't like it.
Because if it's real, it should just happen. It shouldn't be dependent on you.
Yes.
Because if there's I guess if 4 people are together, one's a skeptic, I guess 3 people could see something and one person maybe not, but maybe it's just about being open, receptive to it. But
even still, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's how I feel like it is. I feel like if you're a skeptic, you're maybe more willing to accept reality and maybe more willing to dismiss something that a believer is not.
What about being skeptic, as in somebody who's skeptic is more likely to be closed off sensitivity-wise, where somebody who's more open to it is naturally more sensitive? So like a ghost walk in here, or if you heard a voice, somebody more sensitive is more likely to hear than us or see it than us. But if I was a skeptic, does that make me less likely to because I'm completely close to it?
I think it's the opposite, right? So like I think a skeptic doesn't have that inherent sense. So because they don't have it, they can't. Like for sensitivity's sake.
Well, I think it could go both ways.
I guess so.
Because you might be sensitive without knowing it, but be a skeptic just naturally based on what you've read. Because you've never been put in a situation where you would, have a reason to encounter your sensitivities.
I mean
somebody. I'm talking about somebody moderately sensitive. I don't mean like a psychic, right? Or like somebody.
Right.
I mean like if you like are more sensitive than if you're like in the 59th percentile of sensitivity, right?
Right.
So more than not, but you're not like talking to the dead.
Mm-hmm.
You might just, if you're a skeptic, I feel like it's naturally going to shape the way you look at things.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, but if you like go into something closed off.
I feel like you'll develop that though. You'll develop that belief if you are that, that little bit extra sensitive. I think you'll develop that belief in those things because you'll have a openness to it.
That's how the movies happen, right?
That's true.
Because the movies are skeptic. It's like John Cusack in 1408. It's like, oh, this isn't a haunted hotel.
Yeah.
It's just a dumb hotel. Give me the key. And then he goes in there, fucking haunted. Poltergeist activity. I don't know how I feel about this one particularly.
Okay.
Because just for whatever reason, I don't know if what we're dealing with here is poltergeist activity per se. I'm curious to know, you don't have to say right now, it can be in the discussion, but I'm curious to know your thoughts on whether you think that there's poltergeist activity in this forest.
Okay.
This is just something that was reported. So here's a quote from one of our lovely sources, Mysterious Universe. Quote, poltergeist activity is also allegedly rampant in the forest, with belongings such as cameras or bags being violently flung into the underbrush by unseen forces, as well as people being aggressively pushed around or thrown to the ground. One such occurrence was captured on an episode of the TV show Destination Truth, when one of the crew was suddenly and violently attacked by an invisible aggressor. According to the crew, the man in question, Evan, was sitting in a clearing when there was a sudden flash of light and he was thrown across the clearing to the other side. The somewhat disoriented Evan then found that he had inexplicable scratches all up and down his arms, despite the fact that he was wearing a long-sleeved shirt. He later reported that shortly before the incident, he had heard strange female voices behind him before being blown across the clearing as if by a strong wind. The entire episode was captured on film and remains unexplained. The Destination Truth team was also able to capture the mysterious orbs of light on film during their investigation. Unquote.
He flew across the field?
I don't know how far a field is. Let's say like 3 feet.
Okay. That's interesting.
It's tough because that shows like that like to dramatize because it's entertainment at its heart.
Yeah.
But also they're also going to give you the most video proof of anything, more than an amateur guy with a Sony ZV-1 that needs charged and is dying as we speak.
Always.
You know what I mean? So it's like they're going to give you the best proof, even though we live in a world of smartphones and YouTube. But it's also, whenever I hear something about like Ghost Adventures or Destination Truth, it's like deep down they know they're trying to create revenue.
They are a reality show.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I don't know what else. If this is true, I don't know what would explain that. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I'll talk about poltergeist later, but I don't think this is a poltergeist.
That's kind of where I was at. Next anomaly, UFOs. Let's just add more.
Of
right?
course.
More to the forest. It's just like a big soup at this point, just some paranormal ingredients.
Yeah.
Throw it all in.
It's like America. It's a melting pot.
So in addition to hauntings, potentially cursed or poltergeist activity, the forest is known for UFOs.
Actually, this reminds me of Skinwalker Ranch.
People have kind of compared it to that.
It makes sense.
In August of 1968, a military technician named Emil Barnia took pictures of something strange in the sky.
Sure.
Here's a quote from the source that I knew I couldn't remember. Torn, Romania. Quote, "It was a sunny August afternoon, and his girlfriend told him that she saw something weird. He walked over to where she was standing, and he saw it too. A shining silver disc in the sky. Luckily, he had his camera with him, and before the object bolted away, he was able to capture 4 different photos. The 4 of them only saw the UFO for about 2 minutes, but Barnia then developed his film, and his pictures live on. Barnia's photos were published in local papers, and many people were very skeptical. Some said it was probably just a couple weather balloons shot in odd circumstances or with strange lighting. Investigators looked into the weather balloons, blimps, or anything else that may have been in the sky in that area during that time, but nothing could be found to explain the photos. The photo negatives were also examined to see if Barnia had altered the images, but no evidence of tampering could be found." Unquote. So this also ended up costing Barnia his career in the military.
Oh, wow.
Because they weren't down with paranormal beliefs. So he had nothing to gain and a lot to lose by coming forward with this.
Like most alien people.
Yeah, so...
Most alien witnesses.
This is what he saw.
That's creepy.
It's definitely something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something. So weird. It's almost like... It almost looks like the bean in Chicago.
Yeah, it's like an upside-down bean version of Chicago. We have a more recent UFO sighting. This is a quote from UFO Sightings Hotspot.
Sure.
Quote, "The most recent high-profile UFO sighting to come from Hoia Forest occurred in 2002 when 2 residents on the top floor of an apartment complex in the adjacent city of Cluj managed to capture 27 seconds of footage of a bright, cigar-shaped object around 50 feet in length hovering over the forest. The UFO reportedly slowly made its way across the sky before disappearing into thick cloud cover."
So it's not that rural if you could see the forest from this city.
Apartment? Yeah, so I guess that's like, I don't know what Cluj is like. That's like Cluj-Napoca. Cluj-Napoca. I don't know how bumping it is there. But yeah, I mean, people, there's apartment complexes, I guess. I mean, there's stories about people taking like taxis to this forest. So it's not, you got to drive 3 hours out of the way to get there.
You don't need to take a witch's cart with a donkey.
No, then I didn't see that in there.
I bet it helps though.
That makes me think of The Witch.
Oh, that's a scary movie.
It is creepy. So those are the main anomalies.
Weird stuff.
So we got theories, and then we will get into encounters. So these kind of go beyond just the idea that it could just be a haunted forest. Now, I'm not saying that makes it basic or it's not worth looking into, but these are kind of like, these theories aren't trying to get into necessarily like what could have caused a haunting. It's almost like that's baseline.
Right.
These are more like what could cause everything people are experiencing. So I got 2 fun paranormal theories.
Awesome.
And then I got 1 sciencey theory.
Boo.
So theory number 1 is that there is a UFO alien base.
Yeah.
In this forest.
Yeah. Okay.
Based on some of the strangeness with lights, reported UFO activity, people think that there could be a UFO base housed in the forest.
Yeah, the big field opens up to an alien base.
Yep.
Duh.
That could also be why the forest hasn't been torn down. I don't have that in my notes, but that's just based on what you were saying.
That's a good point.
Also, because, when someone's like, I'm walking through the forest and I'm getting feelings and I'm being watched, naturally you think cryptids or ghosts. Could be aliens.
Or cameras.
Cameras.
From the aliens.
Aliens. Perhaps there's some type of cloaking system.
Alien cameras.
Or they're underground.
Yeah.
I mean, could be crazy. Could be
no, it's not crazy.
Factual.
I don't think it's that crazy. Oh, hold on. Imagine you are a woodpecker and you were flying around Romania and you found a nice little home on the outskirts of this kind of admittedly creepy little village.
Cluj?
Yeah. No, of the forest. Hoia. And you make your home in one of the trees. And every night you just see people walking by just freaking out. And you're just a little bird
You'd have no idea.
You have no idea. That's so silly. Stupid humans. I love birds.
Birds mind their own business.
I do.
Birds might not be real.
It might not be.
That's still on you. I've covered a lot of things I said I was going to do in 2020.
I was thinking maybe those birds are cameras for the aliens.
All birds are cameras.
Well.
Theory number 2 is that it is a different dimension.
Oh.
This points to the idea that Hoia Forest is a portal to somewhere else. This would explain the strange symptoms that people experience, such as nausea and anxiety, along with the missing people and where they're going. And it would explain that urban legend, because she didn't leave for 5 years. She went somewhere else in a different dimension for 5 years. I'm thinking if there really is a portal, that it would have some effect on people's sensations.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like thin, like it's easy to cross between or something there.
Well, that's another thing is if you want to play matchmaker and combine theories, there could be an alien base in this forest because it is a portal, and that's what brought the aliens there.
Interesting ideas. Interesting idea.
Theories 1 and 2 are friends.
I mean, the electrical signals are the weirdest part to me.
That's another thing. It's got like those type of, I don't want to say scientific anomalies, but like natural phenomena, like natural.
Yeah, like the magnets are off or something there.
It's just a weird place. It looks like a weird place too. It's not like a normal place that just has weird
like a
activity.
Nice forest.
Like there's nothing normal about this place.
No.
Finally, the last theory is kind of going off what you were saying. Not exactly, but I think you're very, very close. Sound waves.
Sound waves.
So there's a quote from Mysterious Universe. Quote, "Perhaps the forest is a source of some ultra-low frequency sound waves, which are basically sounds that are inaudible to the human ear, yet can create profound physical effects from the vibration nonetheless. These sound waves could be known to create deep feelings of unease and disorientation in people who experience them, which are similar to sensations reported at the Hoia Forest. Ultra-low frequency sound waves could also potentially be the root cause of the physical discomfort associated with the forest, such as headaches, nosebleeds, and all of that, and can also possibly produce profound audio and visual hallucinations." Unquote.
I've heard of that before. Have we talked about that before? I feel like we have.
Yeah, it's been one of the theories that we've discussed for something.
You know, that's how elephants talk.
Is that low?
Yeah, they like pump.
But they also do the high thing.
Well, yeah, no, but they like they really talk about like putting those low things into the ground, and they go for miles.
Miles?
Miles.
That's their text messages.
They do. They're like, "Come get this grass."
You just see them stamping around, and it's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, he had a typo. He's got to fix that.
I didn't mean I love you. I meant I love bacon.
All right, so those are the theories. Now you got a full understanding. You can see it. You know the anomalies. You know the urban legends. You know the theories that go along with it. Now let's get to my favorite, the funnest part of any episode we cover, the encounters. All right, I got 3 encounters for you.
Wow.
These are all unique in their own way.
I'm excited.
And obviously all involve the forest.
That'd be pretty weird. Start talking about some castle or something.
Yeah, so let's get started. This one is from Reddit. Quote, "This particular story happened during summer in the Hoia-Baciu Forest. Seeing as I'd like to keep my name anonymous as well as my friends, I'll be referring to myself as S and my friend as T. Ever since I had access to the internet, I've always been fascinated with the supernatural, the horrific, and the insane, and I don't know why. I guess it's just like what adrenaline junkies get when they do something particularly dumb and exciting. Anyway, I moved to Romania a good 2.5 years ago, moving in with my girlfriend. After a few weeks, I was introduced to T, a botanist that worked in Romania, documenting plants and whatnot. We both liked beer, a lot, and during one of our particular beer meetings, we started talking about spooky stuff he'd experienced in the woods. Now, T is a true skeptic. He doesn't believe in anything that seems just slightly out of the ordinary. He thinks UFOs and vampires and all that are just bad trips done by hippies in the woods. Either way, we start talking about Hoia-Baciu, a forest near a city called Cluj. Although having never been there himself, T said some of his fellow botanists have experienced pretty messed up stuff there. Some had scratches, others passed out. Some heard voices. Fast forward a year, I had recently just quit a job that put a lot of strain on my personal life and, in result, my relationship with my girlfriend. So after applying for a new job, I decided to use the free time to de-stress, meaning playing lots of games, getting drunk, and hanging out with T. T had a particular job to do in Cluj, and I gladly tagged along and spent my time exploring the city. After a little search on Google, I discovered the supposedly haunted forest. It took a while, but I eventually convinced T to come with me on this curious exploration of the forest. T was busy and needed to go to a meeting a couple days from then, meaning we could only spend one night in the forest, which kind of bummed me out, but it was better than nothing. The walk into the forest was relatively uneventful. It only took some time because T stopped to document some plants on the way, while I just stood around and smoked some cigarettes. Night finally came, and the two of us set up in the forest, surrounded by trees, while the ground was covered in a blanket of brown, dead leaves. T and I only had a two-man tent, some food, some booze, of course, a foldable e-tool, and my bayonet. We set up the tent in no time, had some grub, and spent the evening just sitting around drinking beers and talking. We made a tiny fire, and nothing happened as the evening stretched on. At around 1 a.m., they decided to finally hit the sack. As we packed up the stuff and was about to put out the fire, we both heard the sound of a branch snapping in the distance, some distance behind our tent, followed by what sounded like very quick, yet loud, yelp. It was high-pitched and echoed through the trees. T and I stood still, listening intently to the noise in the distance. 1 minute turned to 5, and then 5 turned to 10. I was the first one to begin packing up again, but I was quickly stopped when T waved his hand violently and whispered for me to stop and listen. It must have been sleep taking over, because I didn't hear anything at first, but slowly I started picking up on the noise of movement in the woods. It started behind me and moved to my right, then to my front, and then to my left. Something was circling us. I looked at T and he looked back at me. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that T is not a guy who scares easily. Almost never, in fact. But the look of pure terror in his eyes instantly took its hold on me, and I felt my heart push up into my throat. Moments of silence passed, and slowly, I waved him towards the fire. We stood on opposite sides of it and leaned over cautiously. "You heard it, right?" I asked, and T nodded. "Do you think it was just someone taking a piss?" I asked. T shook his head. "What about a wolf? A bear?" T just kept shaking his head. He shook his head again. At this point, I'll admit that I got a little annoyed. I thought it was definitely just some jerks out in the woods trying to scare us, and I didn't want any of it. I knelt down and pulled out my bayonet, and turned around to shout in the woods while brandishing my weapon, when suddenly a flurry of movement came from behind T. We instantly whipped around just in time to see leaves being kicked up and the figure of something strange disappearing into the bushes again. I didn't get a clear look, but T instantly turned around and looked behind me, even more fear in his eyes, so much so that I could see tears welling in them. "The shovel, give it here," T whispered cautiously. "Keep looking behind me, I'll keep looking behind you." I nodded and knelt down carefully. My eyes stayed level and looked into the darkness of the forest behind T, and slowly the shovel was handed to him, while he unfolded and kept it ready. Another sudden yelp came from the woods. This time it was much closer. I swore it was within a 10-meter radius of us. The noise was much easier to identify this time. It had a certain hoarseness to it, some sort of predatory tone. We began listening again, and I wish I hadn't. We could still hear the sound of something moving low and slow around us, circling us, but there was something else, a second noise. A second body was circling us slowly, and we could hear the faint sound of wheezing, breathing from beyond the foliage. We knew we had to stay awake, no matter what, but as the alcohol started fading, sleep began creeping in, and I was the first to feel it. The night continued, and we whispered carefully that we were going to pack our stuff and leave the first sight of light, leaving the tent and everything behind. At this point, I'd lost track of time. My body ached from standing ready for so long, and my fingers were numb from gripping the bayonet. All my senses flared up when suddenly a noise of rustling leaves came from behind me. Almost instinctively, I turned around, but a quick wave from T made me stop. "It threw a rock," he whispered slowly, and slowly I realized that whatever it was out there, it had tried to make me turn around. Another yelp came, and our bodies flinched at the sound. That night was the longest of my life. We stood there throughout the entire ordeal, using our feet to shove wood in the fire, while taking turns drinking Jaeger and watching each other's backs. When light came, T moved past me, and I practically walked backwards for a good half an hour until both of us set a dead sprint through the woods. When we finally got to the road, we were met with a police cruiser and 2 angry officers. T took some time to explain what was happening, and I noticed that the cops didn't look surprised. We were taken into the cruiser and taken back to Cluj. T told me that we were not to speak of what happened in the woods. A little later, he told me one of the forest rangers had been attacked and killed in the woods that same night by an unknown animal that had only managed to partly devour the man's innards before the body was discovered. It's safe to say that something is in Hoia-Baciu, and I would not suggest going there. Take this story as a warning. Do not go into those woods. I regret going there. Unquote.
They were so drunk. They were so drunk. They're doing Jaeger while standing guard.
I've never heard of using Jaeger to stay awake. It's like they were using alcohol to not fall asleep.
Yeah, I don't.
Alcohol is the opposite, especially wine. If I was drinking wine, you could have 50 demons circling me. If you give me like 2 glasses of
you had
like
Jaeger?
Cabernet,
Have you tried it?
if I don't really.
It's
recall.
rough. It is rough stuff. Some people really like
Jaeger
it.
bombs.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. I've done it. It's hard for me.
The idea of the 2 friends watching each other's backs,
Yeah,
and these things circling them, trying to get them to turn around.
that's scary.
It's like that. It's like a game of chess. It's
Yeah,
knowing that there's something that intelligent. It's not just something going off instinct.
yeah.
It's like trying to manipulate the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like a little like a throw-in, but then it's like the same night they were experiencing this, a forest ranger had been torn apart, If true, terrifying.
Yes. Yeah. And then you wonder, like, did the ranger go after them because he saw their car or something? It's just like, ooh.
I don't know. Let's move on to our second encounter. Second encounter here. Quote, my grandmother was Romanian, and she had some of the scariest damn stories that I ever heard. We only visited her twice, and I was very young, but I do remember the story she told me that stuck with me to this day. She lived along a remote road surrounded by farmland and some homes. One day we were walking to her neighbor's farm when we passed a field that led up to a large forest. I remember my grandmother was walking with determination when I asked her why that little girl in the woods was waving at us. She told me to keep my eyes on the road and continue walking, but I didn't. This time, the girl was beckoning for me and then pointing to the woods. I tugged at my grandmother's skirt, and she grabbed my hand angrily and continued walking to her neighbor's house. Once we got inside her neighbor's house, I asked again, who was that girl, Grandma? Her neighbor's eyes got wide, and she excused herself to make us some tea. My grandmother hesitated before telling me the story of her younger sister, Iana. My youngest sister was a beautiful little girl like yourself. She was full of energy and was always disappearing to go exploring. As children, our mother told us we were never to go into the forest alone, and if it could be avoided, to do so. Iana came to me one morning with a mischievous smile and asked if we could take a walk. We walked along our dirt road until it hit the edge of the woods. I suggested we turn back, but she simply smiled and continued walking. I called to her to come back, but she ignored me and continued going deeper into the woods. I grabbed my skirt and chased after her, calling her name into the woods. She continued to run deeper and deeper into the forest. I followed closely behind her, but the forest seemed to grow darker and thicker with each step. Eventually, I could not see her tiny white body against the green and browns of the forest, and I noticed the sky was growing dark. I knew we had only been running for a short amount of time, yet somehow the day was almost gone. The sun was hiding beneath a canopy of trees, and I knew not only was it going to get dark, but I had no idea where I was. I called for Iana once again, but no sound came. It was then that I realized the silence of the forest. Unlike anything I'd ever heard before, I felt the panic creep up my spine, and I began running from where I came. I slowed when I saw again the pale white against the darkness of the wood. I saw off the trail was a large clearing. I don't know how I could have ran past it without noticing it. The clearing was large and barren and seemed to be in the shape of a giant circle. Standing in the middle was my sister. She was smiling in her white dress, mud staining the bottoms, and her tiny hand clutched a tall man, if you could call him that. He was thin and pale like the trees marked by fire. He wore a black suit that seemed oddly large on his thin, harsh bones, and he held my sister's hand and a long golden pocket watch in the other. The watch glinted against the sunlight, and I put my hand up to block its rays. When I awoke, I was alone in the field, and the morning sun was beginning to rise above the trees. I was cold and covered in dew, and frost cracked beneath my feet as I went to stand. The woods remained silent, and yet I felt that I was not alone. My sister never came home. So that is why you never go into the woods. Unquote.
Oh, my God.
It's a little Slender Man-ish.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking the devil.
It's
But also I was thinking that I don't think that was ever her sister. I think her sister went in the day before. I think the thing that came to get her was Faye.
well, I mean, she did say that she used to explore where she shouldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really good point because it does seem like she is intentionally leading.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't quite as playful as you might think.
It was like, come on. Did she say anything either? She didn't say anything.
No, she didn't.
It's Faye.
It was kind of like, come join me.
Mm-hmm.
It's very spooky. And imagine now being like I mean, it's already very sad. You lose your sister like that in the woods. And then now you're an older woman, a grandmother.
Yeah.
And you see the same age, same apparition of your sister.
And you keep seeing it. And then
she's trying to get your granddaughter
to come? No. I would be so much more angry than the grandma was in this story.
Well, she was pretty angry, but
I'd be pretty mad.
Maybe that's why they only visited twice. Because it was like, maybe the grandmother was like, don't come here. I mean,
honestly,
I'd just move.
Honestly, maybe she didn't want to.
Ohio's nice this time of year.
That was another point I was going to make. It seemed like the sun was setting awfully fast. That just seems like a typical day in Ohio.
Maybe Romania and Ohio are kind of similar
weather patterns. Yeah.
It woke up and now it's bedtime. It is depressing those days when you wake up for work, it's dark, and before work is over, it's dark.
I hate that. Like, well, you work a little bit later than I do, but I get out of work at like 4:30 and I'm seeing the sun's going down. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I could work from outside if it wasn't cold, but like it's like I have my lamp on before my shift is before I clock out, my lamp in my office is on.
Yeah.
And it's just like, like I can see it from my office window, the sun going down. It's just like, I'm still working. Okay, so let's get to our third and final Reddit story, and then we can discuss the mysteries of the Hoia-Baciu Forest. Third and final encounter from Reddit. Here we go. Quote, my friends and I study in Spain, and we decided to take a weekend to go to Transylvania because we wanted a spooky holiday near October. We researched a little bit and found the most haunted forest in the world, locally known as Hoia-Baciu, was right next to a town called Cluj-Napoca, which had flights from a coastal town in Spain. We made our way to Romania shortly. We took a taxi there instead of the bus because we were losing daylight. It was driven by an old man who didn't want to take us far into the forest, and he made sure we wrote down the number to call for a taxi home. After we drove off, we made our way along the path into the forest. It was maybe 7 o'clock by then, and the sun was setting fast. The forest has this weird way of blocking out sunlight more than you think it should. I had trouble seeing things 15 feet in front of me, even though the sun was still above the mountains to the west. Of the three of us, for the sake of being anonymous, I'll call her Sam, got hungry, and opened her container of pot stickers. The smell lured one of the local stray dogs out of hiding, and we named her Daphne. It was just a fun jest, us being the whole Mystery Inc. crew. I was Velma, Sam was Shaggy, and our other friend Jane was Fred. We were just playing around. Anyways, we got to this clearing where we watched the sunset and ate dinner with Daphne guarding us the whole time. She was really timid at first and growled at other strays that tried to take her food, but eventually she calmed down and we were able to pet her and remove some brambles from her fur. She was incredibly scrawny. I could feel just about every rib through her skin. We fed her as much as we could, but she preferred to only eat meat. Eventually, the sun set. I finished my beer, and my friends were itching to get going. So we went further into the forest, stepping into a clearing that measured the length of a full-size swimming pool. Two odd things happened when we entered that clearing. First off, people further into the forest started playing music. There were tambourines and drums and some sort of horn. It was perfectly eerie, but we didn't think anything of it at first. Then there was the fact that the temperature dropped about 5 degrees as soon as we entered the space. Jane and I commented on it almost simultaneously, as it's a pretty common sign that, obviously, something paranormal is going on. Daphne kept following us, unbothered by any of the weird things that we've encountered. Of course, as college-age girls do, we stopped to take some photos. Somewhere in the middle of our selfies, the music had stopped. We walked up towards the hill where the music had been coming from, and we found a group with 2 dogs. They were sitting in an alcove in the path. The super weird thing is, all of their eyes flashed in the light like an animal's. No one said anything to us. Their dog followed us down the path, but no one called out to keep him from running away. I think there were about 5 of them. We walked further down the path, and the only thing we would see reflected in the forest were orange eyes, but small, maybe like a cat's or a squirrel's. All of us felt like we were being watched. The darkness was so stifling. We had 3 phone flashlights on, but there was always darkness 5 feet in front of us, and the darkness behind us. I think that was the worst part. Ahead of us, we could see some faint moonlight coming in from the gaps in the trees above. Behind us, the gaps just seemed to disappear. It was just nothingness. Sometimes Jane would whisper, "Guys?" and then point to something in the distance that was a reflection of eyes or an unclear shadow. She was sure that something was following us. Our stray pup, Daphne, kept us all tethered to sanity. I think I was the most frightened, but I'm also the one that has the healthiest belief in ghosts. We eventually reached the main street, but significantly more frightened than when we were before. Sam, however, wanted to go back to the clearing. This is what we'd come all the way to Cluj for, and she wanted to go a second time. Jane doesn't believe as much as I do, I think, but she's still cautious about the supernatural. Sam just doesn't believe at all. She wasn't hesitant whatsoever to re-enter the forest, and neither I nor Jane wanted to take this away from her, so we decided to go back. Daphne kept walking with us, but we could tell that she was getting tired. At one point, she ran up a hill, and we lost sight of her. And for some reason, no matter what happened later that night, Daphne being out of reach was the most frightening part. When we reached the clearing where we had dinner, I asked to sit for a bit. I knew that if we kept walking, we'd end up where we'd seen those people before, and I didn't want to go back there. We sat, and Daphne walked around the table, getting pets from all of us, and putting her head on the stone surface, as if she, too, was sitting on the bench. We thought about what we'd seen, and how we'd probably need to go to the pub after the night was over, and then Daphne started growling. We only heard her growl at the other dogs until this point, but there was nothing in the trees. The forest is weird. The trees are kind of sparsely set, and there's little to no foliage in the ground. We shone our flashlights in the black, and nothing shone back. The minute I heard something move, I told everyone we had to leave. Jane laughed, and then Daphne sat straight up. Dogs have a better instinct about danger than humans, so naturally, we immediately left. On the walk back through the forest, I walked with Sam while Jane took the rear of Daphne, who was doing her best to keep up. We heard Jane whisper, "Guys?" once again, but we were determined to leave. She whispered it once more, just a little louder, and Sam and I both turned around to ask her what was up. However, there was genuine confusion on her face. Jane is a fun, sarcastic spitfire, but she would never take a joke so far as to panic her friends. She did not say the words that both Sam and I heard. We walked faster. We left the forest quickly after that and started talking about how happy we were to be gone. But we then heard a sort of clapping noise from the forest. It was short, consisting of 2 claps total, and from what we hypothesized, the kind of noise you try to lure a dog with. Daphne was unimpressed, thankfully, and followed us to the edge of the museum that borders the forest proper. I'd called a taxi, and it was coming to pick us up as soon as possible, so we made our way to the street. As soon as we got to the border of the forest, Daphne stopped. We petted her and said our goodbyes, and honestly, I cried a little because I felt like she was the only reason that I got out of the forest and I couldn't do anything for her. She just wagged her tail, turned away, and walked back towards the forest. When we got home, we compared our experiences over cheap brie and Spanish crackers. All of us severely creeped out. Somehow, we got on the topic of the music we heard and the people we saw, and Jane put down her cracker, a very serious look in her eye. She said, "You know what's so weird? I remember seeing their eyes flash, but I don't remember their faces, or even the shape of their faces. It's so odd, but that's exactly how I remembered it too. I had my flashlight on them, but there was some sort of glare that I blamed for not being able to see faces or bodies or even where they sat. But now I don't know where that glare could have come from. They didn't talk to us or call out to their dogs. None of them were smoking, which makes no sense for any European outside the hour of 7 p.m. Unquote. I like how they ended on a joke. Maybe just to ease
That's
the
really
tension.
creepy, though.
The fact that the guys wasn't her, so they heard a voice.
Oh.
There's just something to be said about having an animal. Like if I'm freaked out because I watch a scary movie or something, and you're there and you don't like that feeling where you don't want your arm hanging off the side of the bed. But I look at my cats in the corner of my bed. I'm like, oh, we good. I'm good. I remember one time I was laying in bed and my cat, this was my old cat, Jimmy, that passed away when I was younger. And he just started like looking at the bed sheets. Like, what is that? What is that? What is that? And I'm like, what is that? What is that? So I turned the light on and there's a spider in my bed.
Oh.
It's like my cat saved my life, man.
No, I know what you mean. There's a protection there. Like we have our dogs. So if I know they're in the house, we're safe.
You're good. So those are the encounters and the stories of the Hoia-Baciu Forest. Let's get to the discussion. All right, before we get to the discussion, we like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons who, as of the recording of this podcast, include Emilio, Alex, Cosmic, Unnamed Ouija Demon,
Oh, God.
Felipe, Jeff, and Rebecca.
Wow.
Thank you all for joining our Patreon, supporting the podcast. It goes a long way. We appreciate it. There's a lot over there on Patreon. There's a lot in this episode, but there's a lot over there on Patreon. We like to highlight a couple things during the section. Obviously, there's more than what we're going to highlight, and you can go to Patreon to check that out. I'm just excited not to be looking at a script anymore. I can talk again. This is nice.
Yeah.
Off the cuff, no cuffs in this shirt. Charlie, what is one thing that you would like to highlight from our Patreon?
Sure. We just recorded this the other night. Something I want to highlight is our social media response. If you ever go on our Instagram or Facebook or even I think our Twitter, we post a question every Monday. That's typically posted by our producer, Ben. And Ben, at the end of every month, comes to the studio and we have a discussion about the questions he posted, what people said, and we talk about those questions ourselves. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of in between rants or whatever. If you like those, it's chock full of those.
I like those.
And
you're
too.
Chuck. You know what's nice is because I'd like to believe that we put on a chill, relaxed atmosphere for the podcast.
Yeah,
always.
I think so.
But we're being slightly performative. This, the way you hear us on the podcast is genuine, but it's obviously not how we always talk in our day to day. But I will say, out of all the content that we create for the podcast, I love social media response.
Yeah,
because it is reactionary. It's just chatting.
It's what it would be like if we were hosting a podcast that was not this.
Where there was a couch.
Yeah.
There's
and
a mic
guys.
arm that came to a couch. There was no scripts, no notes, no research.
Preparing, yeah.
It was just, you're going to give us some stimuli and we're going to respond to it in a paranormal fashion.
It's like, would you fight 100 ducks or
100 man-sized ducks or one duck-sized man?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That's all we talk about for an hour.
100 man-sized dogs.
100.
Jesus Christ.
100 duck-sized. No, I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
What I would like to highlight is part of our not tier. It is a hoodie. We've had an exclusive t-shirt that's been a part of our $10 dedicated tier since the moment we started Patreon. But just in July, we launched the not tier. And with that came the not tier hoodie. It's got a whole new design. Got black-eyed kids on it, Mothman, Jersey Devil, Hatman, Forest.
It says Believing the Bizarre.
Not the Hoia-Baciu, but it is a forest. It says Believing the Bizarre. It's got UFO, all that good stuff. And not only do you get, it's not like you're exchanging the hoodie for the shirt. You get, in this tier, you get an enamel pin, a hoodie, and a t-shirt. You get all of it by being in the not tier for at least 3 months. So that's there. Shout out Kimmy from the Alluring Podcast. She designed it. Shout out Jalen just because we love her and she designs everything else.
Yeah.
Those are the things. There's so much more on Patreon. So much more. Check out our different tiers. Tons of different content, hangouts, movies, paranormal stuff. But with that said, I'm very excited to hear Charlie's thoughts on this because I've been talking for a little while here. But let's get back to the main episode. Okay, so here's what we got. We got a forest that has a lot going on.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into if there's something that stuck out to you, whether an anomaly or a moment from a story that you want to touch on, we absolutely can go into any details or intricacies that you'd like. The main discussion, though, I think should be whether this is truly a paranormal forest or it's just a forest that naturally looks strange. Like it's the natural aspects of something that's spooky but truly isn't versus something that's supernatural. So yes, the trees are spooky. They're just trees. Yes, there's weird phenomena. It's electromagnetic thing of both like sound vibrations. The idea that it's like, yes, it's this, but ... science, or that's just the way it is, versus cursed, haunted, UFOs, poltergeist.
I'm gonna be real. Honestly, I'm leaning biased already. Like, I'm biased for this because this is like one of those old world forests from ancient Europe, and it's just like it's as old as humans are, and it makes me think of like elementals and fays and things lurking in this ancient forest, and I love it.
I kind of like and going back to, oh man, what was it the Winchester? What was that? What was the sanatorium?
Oh,
the Waverly Hills. Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Yeah.
All that to say, remember how they had like special infected?
Yes.
And it's like Tommy is on this floor and he does this, and this guy crawls upside down. The creeper. Yeah. I kind of like that the forest doesn't have like there's no one entity. It's just like a collection, a mishmash of
that second
weird,
story.
creepy. See, and like it's so you like I didn't say anything about Faye.
No.
But you obviously would lend the force to that, and I don't blame you. But that second story, it's something. Like the girl,
it just gave me shivers again.
The girl, either it's like the little girl was convinced to lure her sister out, like the tall man told her.
That girl was already gone. I'm convinced of that.
I think if true, I think that's a very fair point. So scary. Like I just can't. Because it's almost like tormenting to see, your younger sister that you know is deceased from 70 years ago, 60 years ago, and now she's coming after your granddaughter.
Oh.
That last story, too.
I wanted to ask you, so you hear music ahead of you, so you have to think there's people in the forest already, which is kind of weird.
And it's like nighttime, too.
Yeah.
It's already like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah. So that's kind of strange. And why are they playing music? Maybe that's more common.
Almost like ritualistic, but
over there. I don't know. And then you see the description of the faces kind of got me f***ed up.
It's weird to think like they saw a flash of eyes.
Yeah.
And they all just like, it's like their mind filled in the blank.
Out, yeah.
Or their mind filled in the blanks of like, yeah, it's people.
Yeah.
And then they all got together later and they're like, can you remember any details?
So like, if it's not people, what was it? And that's very scary.
And the clapping to get like the dog to come back.
But the dog did go back.
But I think it was going back naturally. Like I don't think it was lured back the way that it left at the end.
Right.
Because it was like pet. All right, I'm on my own. Peace. Yeah. Thanks for the pot sticker. Like it didn't seem like I think if it would have happened immediately after the clap, then I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah.
I think the dog is fine. It's fine as a stray dog.
That dog can't go back to. I hope they would have taken it.
Dog almost seemed like a protector.
It did seem like a protector. I wonder if there's good spirits in there as well.
That's the way that the author clearly felt about it. Like she said, it was tethering their sanity.
Yeah, yeah.
Which again, I get that with an animal. Like there's just something nice about having the animal nearby.
I just wish they would have taken it back.
Yeah,
that's just me.
It's crazy, but it's like rooted in like friends want to experience something. You go out there. One friend wants to go a little further.
Oh, yeah, and the one didn't believe in anything. She's like, let's just go double back.
Back to the clearing. It's like, okay. But then hearing the voice that wasn't. But not only was it a voice, it was mimicking their friend.
Yeah.
The guys, like, and knew that that's what she was saying.
Oh, these are good encounters.
Turning around, and she's like, what? Like,
You could also tell that all of these, maybe not the second one, but the first two were definitely written by people native Europe, not America.
Yeah. There were details that were brought in that were it wasn't like somebody who had heard about the forest talking about the forest,
right? Yeah,
or even like the mountain to the west, like that's somebody who was there. I would assume, unless they're looking at a map while writing this. But I'll admit there's some aspects of it that make it seem like it's a story that they're writing creatively. It wasn't on the No Sleep Reddit,
okay.
So let me just say that it was all under the Hoia-Baciu, but. Were there any? You wanted to come back to poltergeist?
Oh yeah. I don't think there's poltergeist. I think that's not what that is. Because a poltergeist comes from, I think, from my understanding. I'll clarify. My understanding of poltergeist is that it comes from energy that is typically female of a girl coming of age, and that's kind of focused in a home with people to feed off of it. I don't think it's in a forest. I do think maybe there were spirits.
Yeah.
Maybe these could have been spirits doing these things. I don't think it's poltergeist, though.
Yeah, I think that was the author of that article just not misidentifying and just like, trying to explain a situation that they saw on Destination Truth.
I agree. Yeah.
Which is fine. If you don't know, you don't know. And I didn't know until we did poltergeist. Like sometimes words are like crocodile and alligator, ghost and poltergeist, interchangeable. So what are your thoughts on it being potentially a dimension, or not just a dimension or a portal, but the theories, the theory of it being the theory of it being a UFO base, a portal to a different dimension, or it's just these sound waves that are causing these feelings.
I wish there was stronger energy, or I wish there was stronger evidence to say that it was a UFO base or whatever, because there was just a couple of pictures, and then that's it.
It's just a theory.
Yeah.
It's just somebody saying like, well, why else would there... Okay. It does seem strange. If there's nothing alien based there,
yeah,
isn't it weird that all this stuff that like it seems like two separate stories? How is this forest a combination of these weird, if it's like old elemental stuff, hauntings, and also a hotspot for UFO activity? Doesn't that seem a little strange?
Is it really a hotspot though? Because I only heard the two stories and they don't seem that hot.
The UFO stories?
Yeah.
Well, there's people that have claimed to have seen UFOs there too. They just didn't become like encounters or stories. There are other people that have claimed to see things in the sky. But I see what you mean. It's not like a Roswell, or it's not like a Travis Walton or anything like that. But it is a clear photo.
That's true. I do think there is. I think there's a lot more evidence that it is some kind of dimensional place that's thin, at least in the veil, and maybe in that clearing specifically, where
nothing will grow.
Yeah, where things can slip in between. And
it made it into the stories too, the encounter stories. This little clearing, which is where they saw the people, by the way.
And it gives me the shivers.
We talked about this a little bit in between when we were pausing. How does this? And this isn't saying one's better, one's worse. How does this compare to you with Hoia-Baciu, the suicide forest in Japan? If you had to spend the night in one.
No, it's not. I pick Hoia. If I had to spend the night in one, I'd pick this one. And that's just because I think Hoia-Baciu is scarier.
It's also bigger. And I don't know if that makes a difference or not.
There's a vastness there. There's also, what's interesting about Hoia-Baciu is that there's a reason for it to be so quiet instead of volcanic stone. And I think that's part of it to me too.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to spend the night in either of these forests, but if I had the opportunity to explore them safely, I think I would take the opportunity, especially just to see these like warped trees, these crooked trees and everything.
Well, also with Hoia-Baciu, that is also ancient and old, just like this forest.
Yeah.
But there is an added layer of the history of bringing their elderly folk to the forest and just saying, well,
bye,
happy retirement. And
like Midsummer. See ya. Club chub.
And so I think there's an element there of it being this dead dumping ground.
There might be something with this Hoia-Baciu too that just isn't like recorded too, because if it's really been settled for that long, who knows? Like also, and this isn't something that's talked about, but just the music, the clearing, there could have been some ritualistic stuff that happened in this forest that drew. And this is me off the cuff. I didn't read anything about this. I'm not saying it's factual. But, what if there was some type of rituals taking place? And what if that clearing, like, what if so much stuff has happened at that clearing spot that just, like, death? Yeah. Like, nothing grows. Too much bad stuff has happened there, and that's permeated throughout the forest.
I mean, we can't know.
No, it's a very interesting what if.
I could see it, though, like, that music. Those people.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well, about the ritualistic nature of it. But
yeah. Oh, God damn. Shivers all over.
Honest on the scale, the believability scale that we like to talk about every single week, from believable to viable to skeptical to unbelievable, because we are all powerful and we get to say. It's our podcast. Charlie, so this is purely paranormal, not paranormal. You don't have to believe every aspect of it. Mm-hmm. It's not like, I don't know about the UFO or the poltergeist, but this, just if you go unbelievable, you think it's people's minds playing tricks on them. It's the twisty branches that look like arms. It is these vibrations that's putting people off kilter and making them sense things. And then believable, obviously, is that there's some spooky paranormal shit going
I think
down.
there's some spooky stuff going on. I go believable 100%.
The sound vibration thing does make an interesting argument.
All right.
I don't think you can cover everything. And honestly, I don't think that UFO photos are fake. And there's just so much. Like, my mind has a hard time. It's like kind of like, okay, keep the alien stuff over there.
It's a lot of stuff.
And then keep the spooky, paranormal, haunted stuff over there. But it's like, this forest is just like...
It just kind of mixes them all together.
I think that's why I'm trying to like think of like, maybe, was there a massacre that happened there a long time ago? Was there some type of ritualistic activity in that clearing? Like, I feel like I need something, or a portal, to pull all these loose ends together.
Bring it all together.
I hate loose ends.
That's what reminds me of Skinwalker's Ranch so much.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty similar.
Another thing we haven't done.
Hey, now.
That and Bermuda Triangle.
I know it's there.
2025, just like GTA 6. Tease it, we'll get to it. You know, I'll be honest, going into this episode after, writing it, I was thinking I was going to go viable, but there's just too much, man. And like I said, I'm not saying you have to believe all of it.
Right.
But I think even if it's just the UFO, I think there is some weird stuff happening. I feel like the look of the forest lends itself for people to become imaginative.
Do you think
it looks like you're in a dark, fantastical forest from the Brothers Grimm?
Like a medieval painting, yeah.
So naturally, you're in that mindset. So there is something to say that with that visual, knowing you're going into it's paranormal. So it's like going into a horror movie. You're already looking for things.
You're primed.
And if it is the vibration thing, it's kind of like you're primed to have some insane experiences. But what fun would that be? So in that case, for now, maybe it'll make a director's cut down the road. But for now, I'm going to go believable. So that is our episode on the Hoia-Baciu Forest.
Tyler, really on the back end of this, I need to know, do you think any of those stories were real? The
Reddit stories?
Yeah. Like, I know, and they don't necessarily have to be, but do you think they were? I think the last one was.
The first one, I think, was heavily, heavily, heavily embellished.
I agree with that.
Because when you start doing the I said, he said, she said, and then being like very descriptive in the moment, it makes for a great story. But then it's like, I feel like it was
really happen.
I write visually, and I feel like it was built around the vision of two guys staring at each other's, so that the backs, and making sure that nothing came up. It felt too narrative based, and the
second
moment.
one, visually, you see a little girl on the hill.
Yeah, that one feels like could have been inspired by Slender Man meets
the devil,
Runaway. But do I believe that a grandmother could have told a granddaughter that story?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So I feel like there could have been a route. Okay, first one. If you told me the first one was a complete work of creative fiction, I would say okay. It fits what we're talking about, and it's spooky. Could it be real? Sure. Could it be 100% fake? Sure. Second story, I feel like at least is rooted in some truth.
Yeah.
The third story, I agree. I think there are creative writing aspects to it, like we're like the Mystery Inc. and we have aliases and stuff.
Yeah, that's just like a joke in the moment, though.
Yeah, perhaps. If any of them were to be 100% true, I would agree it would be the last one.
I think the last one's real.
The last one feels the most gritty. And
it does.
Honestly, that's why I put it third. You notice? I put them in order from the ones I thought were the least believable to the most believable. I normally like to put the banger at the end, even though potentially we might lose listeners who dip out before the end. But for those of you that stick around, y'all got the goods.
Yeah, I just wanted to know your thought on that, because I think it's pretty clear. We don't always think that the stories are real, but we enjoy them. And this is one of those moments.
It's good that you say that, because I think sometimes people may think we're very gullible. Like, oh, you found that on this thread. Like, that's probably fake. It's like, okay. But it's like, we don't know that it's fake, but we also, we're not dumb. We sometimes will read a story and be like, eh. But at the end of the day, we're not a scientific podcast.
Right.
We're not making any claims. This is a podcast that when we're researching, we're putting stuff out there, we're trying to provide information that maybe you don't already know, but also it's entertainment, because if we weren't entertaining, we couldn't be one of those podcasts where it's like, and then the history of the Hoia-Baciu Forest located near Transylvania.
I like how you started that sentence, and then.
Yeah.
All right.
But if you enjoyed this episode, you can comment directly on this episode by going to Spotify and finding this episode and writing your thoughts down. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, you can comment on the podcast as a whole.
In general, we would appreciate that.
Oh, man, that's great. And if you are still shopping for yourself or loved ones, we do have a bunch of merch.
Oh, yeah, it's up there.
BelieveBizarre.com, shop merch, hoodies, T-shirts, beanies, hats, duffel bags.
Tote bags?
Tote bags.
Yeah.
Zip-up hoodies, a retro design. We just released our UFO retro design. Shout out Jalen. It's awesome.
And if you've listened through the podcast one whole time and you don't want to do it again, I don't blame you. We've got so much stuff on Patreon. You can listen to the back catalog on that for. We've got years up there.
We got bizarre news. We have director's cuts. We got games, quizzes. Our producer Ben quizzes us on our old episodes.
Remembering the bizarre.
We watch horror movies together. We do a Google Hangout once a month and just shoot the breeze.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff over on Patreon. We don't just do bonus content, but it is bonus content. It's waiting for y'all if you should so desire. But thank you everybody so much for sticking with us on this movie length episode. I don't know how much Charlie's going to cut. He's going to, I'm going to cut that first story. You can be like, what are they talking about? There are only 2 stories.
Yeah, right.
But thank you everybody so much for listening. We appreciate you. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre,
a podcast as bizarre as you are.